Anything but normal, please. That is the motto these families in this video live by. Because today we are showing you 8 real families who live a completely, radically different life from everyone else. And by radical, we really do mean radical. Let's start right away with the Ree family, who also made a truly radical life choice. Being stranded alone on a remote island is, quite literally, a nightmare for most people. But the married couple, Naila and Holger, chose exactly that of their own free will. They live completely alone on a German island. Their 2 children are the only ones living with them in the small house, which is otherwise surrounded by nothing but meadows, moorland, and a flock of sheep. For most people, that idea is probably absolutely terrifying, because if a disaster ever happens here, there is no way to escape. In fact, it often happens that the tiny island is almost flooded. For that situation, the house has only one protected room, where the family has to retreat and hope the floodwaters soon recede. There are no bridges to the island because it can only be reached by boat. So spontaneously meeting friends for a coffee, a beer, or for the kids to play together is not possible. Quite the opposite. It always has to be carefully planned when the Rees take their boat to the mainland because they are extremely dependent on the weather conditions. In bad weather, they sometimes cannot leave the island for weeks. Luckily, they can provide for themselves quite well there with solar panels and food they grow themselves. Their older daughter recently started school, but of course she cannot sail to school every morning. So most of her lessons take place online. For her father Holger, on the other hand, it is much easier to combine this extraordinary life with work because he is paid to carry out nature conservation on the lonely island. And that is how the Rees live their isolated life in the middle of the lonely North Sea island. The next family, meanwhile, definitely does not know what loneliness feels like. When you look at this large family from Oregon, it is hard to tell who belongs to whom. The simple explanation is everyone belongs to everyone. Taya, Alicia, Tyler, and Sean are in a 4-person relationship. Before that, they had each been in separate couples, but then both couples wanted to bring new energy into their relationships. The 4 of them met at the right moment and all developed feelings for one another. Since then, everything has been shared: a home, the bills, the 5 children, and even their intimate life. The women have their own bedrooms and the men switch beds every night so that everyone can enjoy one-on-one time with each partner. Sometimes the women are also intimate with each other. As a result, the children have 4 parents, and they do not see that as strange, but simply as a bonus. One fact about this, however, is completely crazy. Because the partners keep switching, they do not even know for certain who the biological father of the children is. And that is supposed to remain a secret so that the children see everyone equally as a parent. For the next family, we now have to travel almost to the other side of the world, to a place where everyday life feels like a polar expedition. The Pavlovs live where the air is so cold that even hot water turns into snow in the open air. In the depths of Siberia, more precisely in Yakutsk, the coldest place in the world. In winter, temperatures here reach as low as -70 degrees, and the sun often shows itself for only a few hours a day. Even so, the Pavlov family deliberately chose this extreme life. Alexander and Oksana live together with their 18 adopted and 4 biological children in a small wooden house with a stove that has to keep burning around the clock, because without it, survival would not even be possible. Every day, Alexander has to collect ice and prepare it as drinking water for the whole family, because there is no access to a central water supply. When they go outside, getting dressed takes almost half an hour, and even then the air is so cold that it is hard to breathe. Still, the children enjoy spending time in the snow, although extreme caution is needed here because if they stay outside too long, they risk frostbite on fingers, toes, ears, or other exposed parts of the body. The next family's children also grow up in an extremely unusual place. Their home is bigger than any other because it is the entire ocean, and yet they live in the tightest of spaces, on a sailboat measuring just 20 square meters. The Schwurer family from Switzerland decided 25 years ago to leave normal life behind and move onto the water. They wanted to travel to all 6 continents and were convinced that it could also be done in an environmentally friendly way, using only wind power. Dario and Sabine started out alone back then, and over time they had 6 children, all of whom grew up on the boat. By now they are also sailing experts and often even steer the boat by themselves while both parents are asleep. Sometimes the family spends several months on the open sea without seeing land a single time. On their longest route, they once had to get by for an unbelievable 9 months without a single visit to a supermarket. The only question is how the family manages to finance this crazy life. The answer is, the father works as a climatologist, a perfectly normal job that he can do from the boat, and the family also earns money by giving talks about environmental protection. Meanwhile, the children attend online school on the boat. So in a way, it is a completely normal daily routine, and yet it is totally different. However, it also has to be said that the Schwora's life is not without danger. On their journeys, they have already encountered polar bears and sharks, been caught in dangerous storms, and were even nearly attacked by pirates. Unlike the Schwora family, the Ruiz family from Nashville, Tennessee always has a supermarket nearby, and when it comes to food, would not really have to limit themselves. And yet they have decided to live a radically different life from other families and eat only one thing. Okay, that is not quite true. Along with meat, eggs, butter, and cheese are also allowed. And that is pretty much it. We probably all have the same thought here. This is not exactly what a balanced diet looks like. But Mother Rebecca sees it differently. The only reason she and her 8 children have been eating nothing but meat for 3 years is, well, yes, health. She even describes this so-called carnivore diet as a diet. Well, if you listen to nutrition experts, honestly, it does not sound like a diet at all, but rather like a serious nutrient deficiency. Still, variety is nowhere to be found in the Ruiz family's refrigerator. The only variety comes from the type of animal being eaten: beef, chicken, rabbit, goat, and basically anything that comes from animals. Fruit and vegetables, on the other hand, are taboo. You will hear the reason for that here.
Welcome to the Carnivore Family Channel, where we're a little suspicious that the plants are trying to kill us.
Sugary foods are, of course, also forbidden. No sweets for the children. Not even a birthday cake is an exception. Now we come to a family that lives such a different life that outsiders can hardly believe their eyes when they see them. In a remote village in Turkey lives a large family named Ulas, and some of the children have an extremely unusual condition. They move around on all fours. And not because they enjoy it, but because they simply cannot master walking upright. As surprised as you probably are right now, scientists were just as astonished when they first heard about this family. It seems as if the clock of evolution had been turned back, and as if we were living in a time 4 million years ago when humans still moved like apes. But no, this is actually a unique phenomenon of the 21st century, one that doctors believe can only be explained by a genetic defect. And in fact, examinations showed that the children have an underdeveloped cerebellum, which apparently makes it impossible for them to walk upright. However, it does not seem to limit them. One of the sons, Hussein, can walk for miles this way without any problem and at high speed. The next family is unique in a completely different way. Ari, Gwendolyn, and Brynifer see themselves as non-binary. That means they do not assign themselves to any gender, so they are neither female nor male. They express this, for example, by dressing in whatever makes them feel comfortable without paying attention to whether something is a women's top or men's trousers. For them, there are no rules such as girls only wear pink or boys only play with cars. Among them, there are not even girls and boys. They also pass this mindset on to their 2 children. They should be able to decide for themselves whether they want to be a boy, a girl, or neither. Hazel, the older child, has chosen the latter. Hazel is just as gender neutral as the parents. Sparrow, the younger child, still has this decision ahead. Their children's biological sex is completely irrelevant to Ari, Gwendolyn, and Brynifer and is never discussed.
My own mother did not know Sparrow's genitals for the first 3 months, even though she was living with us at the time.
Last but not least, we come to Anna, Steve, and their 2 sons. More than 10 years ago now, the British family decided to take a radical step. They moved to Vera Playa in Spain, and for one very specific reason: to be unclothed around the clock. Anna and Steve are committed nudists and want to spend as much time as possible completely naked, ideally wherever they go. And in the Spanish community, which is considered a stronghold of nudist culture, that is actually not a problem. Their sons are therefore also used to the unusual lifestyle. The family only puts on clothes for trips outside Vera Playa. Otherwise, they avoid wearing clothes altogether during every activity, whether sleeping, eating, cycling, walking, or shopping. And now, honestly, did one of these stories fascinate you so much that you could imagine living exactly the same way? Or are you perfectly happy with the normal and down-to-earth life you lead by comparison? Let us know your opinion about the different families in the comments, leave a like, and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.